Today's video is all about preserving without canning, which can be a great boon to us when we don't have time to can, but we want to preserve some things. So today's recipe is about pickled eggs. So stay tuned and I will show you and walk you through how you can preserve and pickle eggs. Stay tuned. Y'all, welcome back to another episode of In the Kitchen with Baker Girl. Thank you, Jesus. It is another beautiful day to be in the kitchen, and today I want to share with you my long-awaited recipe or video on pickled eggs. And I know some of you have been asking about these pickled eggs. Now, before we get going, if you haven't subscribed to my channel, please consider subscribing, because as the season gets going and we start doing more and more preserving as gardens are full and farmers markets are full, Lord willing, I will be doing more videos on not just canning, but also quick preserving, because some of us don't have time to do a lot of in-depth canning, but we do have time to preserve a few things that we like, such as eggs. And we all know the price of eggs is outrageous right now. So if you have not subscribed, please consider subscribing and leave a comment if there is a few canning or Here's a rundown of the ingredients that we will need. Now, first of all, you will need eggs. And with the price of eggs right now, we've all seen them, anywhere from $7.99 to in some places $8.99 on up for eggs. Eggs are back to being really expensive. The price had dropped, but they've gone back up again. So one of the reasons of why I like having pickled eggs is because it's like that, insurance bank. You can use them to make potato salad. You can use them to make, the little eggs that you serve. You put the mayo and the pickle and everything. You can use pickled eggs for that. You can use pickled eggs in chicken salad. You can use pickled eggs in egg salad. They're also delicious just for fishing an egg out of the jar, for a quick, easy snack. So eggs, as long as it's not an egg where you actually need a raw egg for something or a whole egg, pickled eggs can be substituted for just regular boiled eggs in many recipes. And if you have some in your pantry or in your cellar or, away on a shelf somewhere that you can grab when perhaps you don't have any eggs, but you need, say, maybe, 2 eggs for egg salad. Or for chicken salad, you can grab your jar of pickled eggs and you've already got your eggs ready to go. And also too, if you find a good bargain on eggs, now say, you drove by a farm stand and someone had them for, $3 or $4 a dozen, you can get a couple of dozen and then you can preserve them and use them whenever you want to. And pickled eggs, now it's not recommended that you process these in a water bath canner. Now I do process mine in a water bath canner, but it's not recommended that you do. So today's version will be a refrigerator version. If you want to go further and can these, you can find plenty, material that you can, and I safely can mine. We eat them, we don't have a problem. But again, I do want to say it is not recommended that you can or a water bath process for long-term storage of pickled eggs. So these eggs, I'll be just putting in the refrigerator and we'll just eat them like that. Now, you need eggs, and you want to make sure to check your eggs that they are, there's no cracks or nicks or anything on your eggs before you boil them. And also, you want to let your eggs have a float test. So to make sure they're fresh, you want to fill just get a pot or a bowl of water and put your egg in there. If your egg sinks, it's a fresh egg. If your egg floats, it's an old egg. Now, that doesn't necessarily mean that the egg is bad. If it floats all the way up to the top, then yeah, that egg is gone past its date. If it just tips itself up a little bit like that or just comes a little bit off the surface, it's still perfectly safe to eat. But again, if that egg float on up to the top of your water, you might want to maybe choose another egg for your recipe. So that's a good tip too whenever you have a lot of eggs, or perhaps you have chickens and you want to know, how old are my eggs? That's a good tip to tell you the age of your eggs. So you'll need eggs, And then we will need vinegar. Now, here I'm just using regular white distilled vinegar. You can use apple cider vinegar. I wouldn't try to go too much on vinegars with heavy flavors because it's not really necessary for pickled eggs. So regular white distilled vinegar is good. You will need some water, just plain cold water. You'll need some sugar, and once again, and in any pickling, just regular white granulated sugar is all you need. Nothing fancy. You'll need a bit of salt. And that is basic for pickled eggs. Now, if you want to go a little further and flavor your eggs, you know, add a little something extra in there, I have here some fresh dill. You can use dried dill, but I'm going to use fresh dill. Now, dried dill is good because it's typically, you can always find it. But it kind of floats and around and kind of just goes everywhere in the jar. So with the fresh dill, you would just put in, you know, say 1 dill frond into your jar, and you don't have dill running around. And also too, the fresh dill just has a much brighter flavor. You can also add a few sliced jalapeno peppers. You could add a few pieces of sliced onion. That'll add a nice flavor. And then you can add some spices to your pickled eggs. So you can add some coriander seeds. You can add some black peppercorns, little crushed red pepper flakes if you want something a little spicy. You can add some turmeric if you want like a nice yellow color in your eggs. And you can also add some chili powder if you want a nice reddish color in your eggs. And also if you have some dark vinegar, usually like a fermented vinegar, you can add a few drops of that in there, and that'll make your eggs kind of like brown eggs. They'll turn a little bit of a brown tinged color. You can add bay leaves, whatever spices you want. You can use rosemary, thyme, oregano, whatever fresh herbs that you have, or dried herbs that you have, you can use those as well. So that is pretty much all you need in terms of ingredients. And of course, you will need canning jars. And I have here 2 quart jars, and then I have 2 pint jars. Now, I prefer to use the regular mouth jars for pickled eggs instead of the wide mouth jars. And a regular quart jar, because of the neck size, and this really works with anything that you're canning and it's going to be whole, the neck will kind of keep it pushed down and submerged, whereas the wide mouth jars, they're easy to work with, yes, but you cannot get as much in it before your eggs, or if you're pickling, say you're pickling whole baby beets, they start to float. So I prefer the regular mouth canning jars. I'm going to boil the eggs, and you boil them just like you boil. Now it's time to boil our eggs. I use the Instant Pot for cooking my eggs. And that's just a personal preference. It's a lot quicker. It takes 4 minutes in my Instant Pot, sometimes 3 minutes, 4 minutes. And you take them out and, you know, put them in cold water and shock them and then peel them. If you want to do the traditional boil them on the stove method, that works just fine. I can fit up to 60 eggs in my Instant Pot, and that's when I have a lot of eggs and I want to can, or I want to pickle a lot of eggs. I know I can fit about 60 eggs, but today we are just doing 2 dozen eggs. So always check and make sure that your eggs there are no cracks, no nicks, none of that. And also, if you happen to have an egg that, when you're peeling it, if you happen to have an egg that breaks, don't use that egg. Save that egg for something else. You know, maybe just like, you know, a little salt, a little pepper, and you have a little snack. Or perhaps use it for something else. But don't put it in the jar with your other eggs. Not that anything would happen, but it can make your other eggs kind of cloudy. Like, it'll make your pickling liquid cloudy, because the yolk is now exposed to the vinegar, and the vinegar is a little strong. So I will just use that egg for another purpose. Okay, so I've got all my eggs lined up in my basket, in my Instant Pot. And now, while the eggs are boiling, I want to go ahead and start prepping my ingredients to go into my eggs, or my add-ins. And you don't need much onion, so I'm actually just going to use half of an onion. And then how you cut it or how you want it depends on how you want the onion. You can finely dice it or you can slice it. I'm just going to give it a good, just slice it. And I'm going to go ahead and slice up my jalapeno pepper. I love spicy pickled eggs, so I'm going to slice up an entire jalapeno. And if you want to cut down on the spiciness, you can, actually, I think I'm going to go ahead and chop up both of these. I was kind of debating whether I wanted to put them in there or not, but I know we like it spicy, so I'm going to go ahead and slice up both of these into rings. And if you want, say you want the jalapeno flavor there, but you don't want the spicy, you can slice your pepper in half and scoop out the seeds and then slice it into little hoops like that. So I've got my onions and that. Now I can switch on to my pickling liquid. So while our eggs are boiling, it's time to make the pickling liquid. And you'll need a stainless steel bowl to mix your vinegar, your pickling liquid in. You also need a stainless steel pot to boil your vinegar, the pickling liquid. Now, always use stainless steel when you're working with vinegar, because other things can kind of give it vinegar can react with different other types of metal. So I have 2 dozen of eggs. So there's my 1.5 cups of plain white vinegar. So I'll add that into here. Trying to mind this so I don't knock it over. This carafe is quite tall. Okay, and then I need 1 cup of water. Now, you can reduce the water if you want, say, very strong or sour eggs. You can reduce the water. Do not reduce the vinegar. And the reason, especially if you have gone the next step and you want to water bath can these to preserve them, to say keep them in your pantry or on your shelf a little while, don't reduce the vinegar. Just because you want to make sure anything is safe that you're going to be eating, anything that's pickled, any low acid food, don't reduce the vinegar. You can increase the vinegar if you want, or you can decrease the water, but don't reduce the vinegar, because that is important. And another good thing about this sort of canning or preserving, I keep saying canning, preserving, is you can taste your pickling brine and you can adjust it however you want. And I'm going to go ahead and bottle up my vinegar now, because I'm done with my vinegar. And now I need my other cup of water. So here is a good example of what I mean about adjusting it the way you want to. So remember I said you can decrease the water, but you don't want to decrease the vinegar. Now, I'm going to add this 1 cup, but I'm actually just going to add 1/2 cup. And I'm going to hang on to 1/2 cup of my water. Then I'm going to go ahead and add my sugar. And I'm going to use 1/2 cup of sugar. That sounds like a lot of sugar, I know. But if you don't add any sugar to your pickled eggs, they will be very sour. And they're not very pleasant to eat that sour. So pickled eggs always have sugar in them. They will not be sweet. It won't, as a matter of fact, you won't even really notice that the sugar is there. But if you don't put it in there, you'll notice, because you'll have some really sour eggs. All right. And I'm going to add my salt. Now, I'm going to use about maybe 2 teaspoons, not 2 teaspoons, 1 teaspoon of salt. And I'm using, once again, I'm using kosher salt. It's coarse kosher salt. I'm actually going to grab my, I'm just whisking. And at this point, This just looks like some really nice water with a little bit of salt and sugar floating around in the bottom. And I'm going to give this a small stir just to make sure that everything is nicely dissolved. The whisk was just to kind of jump start it and get it going. All right. Now, this is the fun part about being in your own kitchen and fixing your own food is you can taste it. So I'm going to taste my pickling brine and see if I'm happy with the level of sugar in it, if I'm happy with the level of salt in it, or if I'm happy with the level of vinegar. So, thank you, Jesus. That's nice. But it does need just a little bit more of that water. So, we hung on to some of the water. So I'm going to add a little bit more of the water. As I say, when you have that set threshold of water that you do not want to go, you don't want to go below, or you don't want to go over, but you can go below. The reason why this doesn't tamper with the safety levels is because we're not reducing what keeps our food safe when we're canning or when we're pickling. In this case, it is the vinegar that keeps our foods safe and keeps down any, harmful growth of anything that we don't want in our jars. Vinegar will not allow any bacteria or anything to grow at the high level that we have. So 3 cups of vinegar is a lot of vinegar, and you don't have to worry about anything being unsafe. Whether I add salt or sugar is merely a matter of preference. That, whether I add more or add less, will not affect the safety of my eggs. So that's another tip. That's the reason why I'm saying you can kind of tinker with, do I want more sugar, do I want less sugar? It's not going to matter one way or the other, just only in the taste. So let me taste this one more again. Thank you, Jesus. That's nice. That's real nice. Okay, so I've got my pickling liquid ready. I'm going to pour it into my saucepan. And I'm going to, see, eggs are finished already. That means I've been running my mouth for 4 minutes. I'm going to pour it into my saucepan, and I'm going to bring my vinegar mixture up to the boil. And I want this to be hot. So I'm actually going to put this on the stove. You don't want to start boiling it so nothing evaporates, but you do want this to be at like a steady hot temperature, because when you pour the pickling liquid over your jars, you want it to be hot. Eggs are cooked and peeled and ready. Now we can start putting our flavorings into the jar. Now I know I want one of these jars to be a dill pickle jar. So I'm going to start putting some of that in there. The dill. And let me bring over my pepper rings and onion. So I'm going to go ahead and drop pieces of onions in there. And also add in my pepper rings. There we are. And then I can start dropping in my eggs. So 1 egg, 2, that's 3, 4. And then I'm going to add in a few more pieces of onion. And 1 more piece of jalapeno. And I'm going to add in a little bit more dill. And also, I want to add in peppercorns. Whoops, false one. Add in some peppercorns. Because it's better to add in the peppercorns than it is to add in crushed up pepper, because that kind of floats around in the jar. So, add in some peppercorns. And I'll add in a little bit of few coriander seeds, not many. You can also add in celery seeds too if you want celery seeds. And add in a few more eggs. And there we are. So that's 1 jar of dill pickled eggs. Now I can keep going and fill this jar up, but I want to make sure I've got plenty of room for liquid. So I don't want to overfill my jars. So now this one I think I want to add some onion in this one as well. This is the fun part because you can always add or, add a couple other things. Now, for this one, I want this one to be a little on the chili side. So I'm going to add in a little bit of, ooh, that's good. A little bit of chili powder. Doesn't take much. Doesn't take much. And I'm going to add in just a few crushed red pepper flakes. Now, yeah, the jalapenos will make this one spicy, but the chili powder is a different kind of spicy. And I also want to add in a little bit of turmeric. Doesn't take much turmeric. About a nice, good sized pinch. And a few crushed peppercorns. And then add in more eggs. And then a few more pieces of onion. And more eggs. And as I say, don't overfill your jars. So that's the 2 big jars. I'm going to set these aside. And then I'm going to work on my smaller jars. Now, I know I want one of these to have dill in it as well. So I will just spiral in my piece of dill. And then add in my onion. If you don't like onion, you can leave the onion out. And another thing you can add in, and as you probably guessed by now, I like add-ins, but this is why we make our food at home, because we can, add this or add that. So I think I can get one more egg in there. And, oh, I didn't add any jalapenos in this jar, did I? I did not. Okay, well, let me add in my jalapenos. There we are. And then for this jar, I want to make this jar kind of like a reddish colored jar. So for that, I'm going to go grab my Kashmiri chili pepper. This is Kashmiri chili pepper, and if you have it, it is so good. It comes from Kashmiri chilies, which come from a region in India, and it turns things a beautiful, vibrant reddish color. So I'm just going to add some of that in. A little goes a long way, because it's not hot spicy, but it's very fragrant spicy. So I'm going to add a little bit of that in. And I think I will add in some more onions. You've guessed by now I like onions in my pickled eggs. I'm not going to add any jalapenos to this jar, but I will add just a few coriander seeds. And I will add in a few peppercorns. And then add in the rest of my eggs. There we are. And you can see the smaller jars does not hold quite as much as the larger jars. So what I mean by that is obviously they are smaller, but in terms of canning and preserving, these you get more space with big jars than you do with the little jars. But at the same time, the smaller jars can be more convenient, because if you're not going to eat these up, or you don't want a whole lot, or so well, I open a big jar, well, I'd have to eat all those eggs. So small jars can be a help in that way. So I'm going to go ahead and grab my pickling liquid, which has been keeping warm on the stove, and I'm going to fill up my jars. All right, the pickling liquid is hot and it's ready to go. I'm going to start off by putting my funnel on my jar and just carefully ladle in the hot liquid. Now, the first ladleful that you add into any jar, just pause and give it a little shake. And what that does is that's just it kind of blend in those spices that you added into the bottom down there. And you can add the spices in and then add a little bit of liquid in, give it a little bit of a shake, and then go ahead and proceed with adding your eggs in. I mean, if you think that far ahead, you can do that. I typically don't, but if you think that far ahead, you can do that. And if for any reason you discover that you need more pickling liquid, because you do want to make sure your eggs are well submerged. Just make up another quick batch of your pickling liquid. I do it all the time, especially when you're not going to be water bath canning these. You can do that. And I have a feeling I'll probably need some more pickling liquid myself. Now, it's better to, since it's so simple to make up more of it, you just stick with that ratio of 1.5 cups of plain white vinegar to, let's just say 2/3 of a cup to 1 cup of water, and 3 tablespoons of sugar, and add in your salt, and you will be fine. Okay, it'd be nice if this would go, if it would cover all of these. It would be nice, wouldn't it? Okay, this one's got the Kashmiri chili at the bottom. It's so pretty because it's so red. You know, we stick to the things that we're familiar with, the dill, but the Lord has made so many wonderful different foods that come from so many different parts of the world that, why not switch up sometimes? That smells good. Okay, and here is the last jar. And of course, this will be the jar that probably needs a little bit more. We almost made it. Now, I'm going to share with you a little quick tip if this happens to you and you have a jar. And you see what I mean by how this jar, the egg stays underneath because of the neck. Whereas this jar, your eggs or whatever you have in your jars, literally just bobbing around all over the place. I'm going to share you a tip though with what you can do when you have a jar that needs just a little bit more liquid. And I'll be right back. Take some vinegar, just regular vinegar, and top off that jar. And it's better to do it, always use vinegar, not plain water, because then it could start to tamper with your correct ratios. So let's set that aside. Actually, I'm gonna put this on here. And thank you, Jesus. We're done. See how simple and easy that was? So we've got our dill pickled eggs, and we have our spicy pickled eggs, and then we have our yellow pickled eggs. And like I say, the flavors always depend on what you want. You can change it up. You can add a little bit more turmeric if you want these to be more yellow. You can add a little bit more Kashmiri chili if you want these to be more red. Or you can add a little bit more onion if you want more onion flavor or more dill. But I think this is just the cutest thing, and there is nothing prettier than a beautiful jar of freshly pickled eggs. Don't they look so pretty? I love this kind of stuff. Plus, it's quick preserving. We don't even have to get our water bath canner out. And you see how simple and easy that was. And in no time at all, you can have pickled eggs ready to go. Now, I would store these in my refrigerator and just put the lids on. I have my lids here. So just screw the lids on. And you don't have to worry about screwing them on super tight. And they're still warm. Your jars are still hot. So screw this one on. And make sure we tighten it up nice and tight. And there we are. And now you want to let these cool until they cool down, because they are hot, because the pickling liquid was hot. So let them cool completely. They may seal because the liquid is hot, and these are canning lids, so they may seal. How you know they're sealed is the little button in the middle pulls down. And if you can't do that and you just hear a flap, then your jar has sealed itself. However, since we did not water bath can these, process these in a water bath canner, these are not safe to put on the shelf. So you will store these in the refrigerator. And I would let them sit in the fridge for maybe a week. You can let them sit for 2 weeks for optimal flavor, but I would wait at least a week before I tucked in to them before you start enjoying them. That just gives the flavors the time to blend, and it also helps the strong vinegar taste kind of mellow out, and gives the eggs the opportunity to absorb the flavor, because that's pretty much the longer they sit, the more flavorful they will. Now, you don't want to let these sit in your refrigerator too long, because the vinegar will make your eggs more rubbery. So about a month is a good time. If you don't mind them being a little more rubbery, you can let them stay in there for 2 months. But about a month is a good time to when you really want to make sure that you eat them up before. Because, as I say, the longer they sit in the pickling liquid, the more firmer the egg white gets. They're still perfectly delicious. Nothing wrong with them. We eat them regardless. But you do want to be aware of that. So I hope you have enjoyed this video on our quick and easy preserving, no canning required series. If you have, please leave a comment, give us a thumbs up, subscribe to our channel, and the good Lord willing, I will see you again in another video. In the meantime, take care, y'all. Bye.